You didn't get that?
We're on.
That should be an intro right there. You didn't get that? That's an intro.
It's perfect. Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Picciuto, and I'm super excited to have my good pal, Matthew Mcgarrity, in front of me, live, outdoor studio. Matt, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, and you have a very adorable smile when you're doing this podcast.
Oh, thank you. I love it, man. I'm a huge fan of what I'm doing right now.
You actually enjoy it. I can tell that you enjoy it. I'm feeding off of it.
I really do. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
My name's Matthew Mcgarrity, and I don't do anything anymore.
That seems like something new. Is this a new not doing anything for you?
Good T question. Yes, I left my job, and today's my first day without anything to do. And dog still got me up at 4:45. God, this is so sad. I still have my access to my Teams, and I don't think they're going to turn it off because they want to hire me as a consultant. So I'm still getting like messages, and I was still kind of working this morning, and I'm like, you're such a fucking loser. Yeah. Oh, how's cursing on this? No?
Oh, I'm a big F-bomb dropper, so no sweat there.
So I was dealing with arranging a webinar on Tuesday, and I'm like, all right, I got a meeting tomorrow with my new hire because he wants to practice.
The person replacing you?
Yeah. He wasn't. Yeah, he was kind of replacing me, but he had 4 months of me training him. He didn't know I was leaving, but when I called him into my office, 4 weeks back, I was like, can you come in the office and close the door? And he's like, you're fucking leaving. And I'm like, yes, Alan, I'm leaving. But
how did Alan take it? His mentor leaving.
Alan is very funny. He's younger, but less experienced, but he's good. Way better with IT than me. But he's good, he's got a good sense of humor. We actually went to a bar afterwards, and the waitress or the waiter, one of them was shadowing the other. And
very appropriate.
And then one of our buddies was like, oh, I guess that, she's shadowing him or he's shadowing her, and he's like, it's tough to see that sort of mentorship right now after you've left, now that you're leaving. So he's got a good sense of humor.
That is good. He's
in good shape, and we're actually meeting tomorrow so he could just practice public speaking. He's got to present something that I tried to get in. I tried to finish it before I left, but I couldn't, so he's got to take it. He'll be fine. He's got to just throw him into the water.
Yeah, well, Alan seems like a pretty good guy, and I've known you for, damn near 15 years at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's been an unfortunately long period of time as a bee flies into my face because we were doing an outdoor podcast.
Yes, it's beautiful. I got a wonderful view. I'm looking at the fucking house. John has the view of the woods and the trees. I got the view of the fucking house. I didn't have fine.
It's okay. We can move your chair if you want. But so we've known each other for a really long time. Some of our first interactions were incredibly intoxicated, clothing optional, and very interesting. Mm-hmm. And the person that you've become since these initial interactions is a marvel to me, because not as if you are unemployed. You are voluntarily unemployed because you've got kind of a huge chapter in your life coming up. So why don't you tell me about it?
Well, thank you, John. It's very sweet of you. I've left my company to go to study public health. So at Yale University.
I haven't heard of that one before. Is that like pretty good?
It's good. It's a good school.
Is that like Phoenix Online
No, it's a good school. And I've been grounded because I was talking to a client who's from Harvard, and he's like, oh, yeah, okay. And I was like, I needed that.
To ground you.
Yeah. But, it was totally just a reason so I could leave my company and have an excuse without burning a bridge.
Sure. It's hard to say no to Yale.
But, yeah, no, it's great. I haven't started yet. I start July 2nd, which is good because they they just want to get in right before 4th of July weekend. Let's get some studying in.
Yeah, like 2 days of school.
Yeah, that's good. Let's do that. Let's start July 2nd. That's the there's some pre-course work, but let's hit the books July 2nd.
Very interesting timing. So what made you decide, like, you've been in the same job, I think, for
11 years.
11. I almost said 5.
Years.
Jesus.
Jeez, I know,
God bless you.
years.
So 11 years climbing the corporate ladder. You've had a very successful last 12 months while the entire world was falling apart. And to me, it's a interesting time in your career to kind of take a step back and be like, I want to do something else. What was that like decision-making process like on your end where you're, wrestling with how to make this decision or not?
You don't make a decision like that because it just happened. That's something that's been simmering inside you for a while, and you might have had a catalyst to that says this is really why I want I got to make this judgment call now. And really it was because I was there for 11 years, and I loved working there. I loved my teammates. They're just internationally, domestically, great team, great organization, great people. What I loved about it is that I was working with a bunch of smart people all the time. Mm-hmm. So I could talk to a doctor in polymer science. He was my mentor, Dr. Sanjeev Gandhi, or talk to somebody who's a expert in filtration because they made a filtration lab. And so that was great. But the last year and a half, seeing how I would say that we've dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic, I realized that we were, there's other work to be done, really, especially when it comes to before the let's say whatever
pre-COVID
contagion gets here, So just I dealt mainly with the PPE front, so the personal protective equipment, and I noticed shortages were occurring. I saw, kind of different spikes of testing. This was back in February. So, I knew the virus, the Wuhan virus, whatever was calling it,
the China virus.
Yeah, China. I noticed that something was going on, and I worked at an international company, so I know there's a lot of things that affect other things, and I also noticed talking to my friends who were doctors and nurses that I can't get any. They were wondering why they weren't able to get any gloves or something, and I knew, being in the industry, I knew that Wuhan was really actually, no one really talks about the fact that Wuhan is also the center of the PPE industry.
Really?
Yeah, that's where most of the PPE in the world is made. So, I don't know if that's the correct, but
close.
Colloquially, it's known as, one of the major hubs, if not the major hub. So, I was just kind of getting nervous that there was going to be a perfect storm where we would have no PPE because we're already going through our existing stockpiles because we couldn't get any before COVID got here, and then when COVID got here, we would need an extraordinary amount, and that's what happened, and and it never really it evened out eventually, but just seeing that we are the United States of America, I'm used to us. I was thinking, okay, World War II, we're gonna, we are pumping out B-17 bombers and tanks and all kinds of shit, just the arsenal of democracy. And
there should be no problem.
It just never really materialized in the U.S., the domestic production. There was domestic production, don't get me wrong, definitely was, but not to the point where I didn't have to go to a gas station to get a Chinese KN95, which is the Chinese equivalent to an N95 here.
Right.
So, they only allowed those into the U.S. for special circumstances, and getting those a year later, it's like, come on, what are we doing here?
Sure.
We can't make the because the margins aren't there. We can't make these in the U.S. So it was just it was a bit of a shock to the system, seeing that, dealing and helping working with the White House coronavirus task force and FEMA and other the major city was like, we have 10 million gloves, but 5 million are the different size than the other ones, and and it's because
wild inefficiencies.
They're all looking for numbers. They want to import numbers, not so much quality. And so we are in the quality business. That's what I was in. So we would test these types of PPE. For a glove, we would fill it up with water and see if there's any leaks. We would do tensile testing on it. We would, age it and then redo the tensile testing to see if they actually have that efficacy that it's, required.
It has.
Yeah. And for masks, we would do filtration testing. But it was more about just numbers, and I was just kind of shocked that seeing pictures of the healthcare workers in trash bags, which I know that was only the beginning, but come on, I mean, it's and also I started mailing my friends who were doctors masks. Our one friend who had a newborn, or I think very young, 6 months maybe, and Connor, and he had to get surgery, and they had no hand sanitizer to give her.
Jesus.
So I had to mail her hand sanitizer, like in a care package.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
What is
So you're seeing all these like inefficiencies in the marketplace, and you're like, I could be doing so much more.
Well, I mean, I think it was just in the initial rush. Shock was just it was doing what we normally do, just on overdrive, and working with all of our different teams, in Europe and Asia, and so. But after a while, it was more about thinking long term. What can I do long term, as opposed to just because I don't want it to get to that point where we're here. We're still doing. We're wearing fabric masks. Which is, don't get me wrong, they serve their purpose. They don't protect you; they protect others.
Mm-hmm.
But again, with inefficiencies, we were the only country. For a while, that we're not the only country, but there was let's say France, the UK, Spain. They were all making their fabric mask standards. They were bringing in their textile industry because nonwovens were such in short supply.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to bring in their textile industry because that was the what else can we use to kind of mitigate this and supplant using nonwovens, and it was textiles. And so when you do that, you have to make minimum requirements to ensure that you're not making just a fucking piece of fabric that you're putting over your face, which can further aerosolize the respiratory emissions because you're putting them through a grate, essentially a mesh.
Right, so it makes it worse.
So that's like a gaiter, a 1-layer gaiter. You need at least 3 layers. And so when you say, when the CDC says start making fabric masks, everybody at home, first off, a lot of that is bullshit, because they need us in a time of emergency to think that we're doing something to help. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
The washing your hands was mainly just cosmetic.
Mm-hmm.
It was just saying, of course it helps, but we're doing something I'm doing my part. It's like
it's like the old adage. It's like, if they don't say anything, they're wrong, and if they tell you the wrong thing, they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's like we've done so much second guessing over the last year that it's like, now they're just this week they were like, oh, masks don't do shit at all. Like, it doesn't matter, don't wear them, doesn't need them. And it's like, yeah, but like, so over the course of the last year, had they been like, don't wear masks, and 600,000 people died, they're wrong. They tell you to wear masks, 600,000 people die, they're still wrong. It's like there's just all this double standard of yes and no and yes.
Well, I think it's because you're trying to explain something that these types of studies have a very high burden of logic and data, and so if you have a thesis or a hypothesis, you have to have strong evidence as why, and do a statistical analysis on why it was that's correct. If I'm trying to see if a statistical difference between two hypotheses, I'd have to see ensure that I'm doing the analysis to ensure that it's a statistically significant difference.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it was in the beginning, you have to look at the human factors of things. So if I'm wearing a mask, in the beginning we have some random virus that we really don't know much about. And if I tell everybody, okay, wear a mask, it's not intended to protect you, because if the only thing that you can wear that will protect you is a respiratory protective device like an N95, not a mask. And now you have to think of the human factors point of view, whereas, okay, we're worried about everybody who doesn't really want to, deal with this pandemic. If they all start wearing masks, are they just going to say, I'm wearing a mask, I'm bulletproof now?
Sure.
And then just have all this behavior where they're just, even, they're not mitigating the pandemic, not being conscious of it, where they are, but they don't care as much because they think they're protected wearing this mask that's actually not protective. So you have that one part, which is the human factors element. And the second part is we just didn't have any masks left.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a mass rush on the very little amount of supply that we had, the healthcare providers were even worse positioned. So it was really those two dynamics that I think that they were saying that, don't wear a mask, or, don't go out and buy masks. It was mainly just, I think, of a mixture of those two reasons.
I think the outside looking in frustration, like from my perspective, is it's very difficult to imagine getting 99.9% correct answers in the middle of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, these data scientists are crunching numbers and doing things in real time, and you're talking about sample sizes that are constantly increasing. So for sure, they make decisions today that might not be as factual as they are 9 months from now, because there's 9 more months worth of data that they're able to analyze and look at. And what the biggest thing that has alarmed me about the entire pandemic in general is the politicalization of the entire mask wearing, of the entire washing your hands. We're talking about things that are trying to mitigate saving lives.
Yeah.
And it's not a political thing. And it unfortunately has become one. So my question for you is, you've gone through this year of an insane trial and tribulation of, what is the industry that you're in. And then you decided to say, hey, I can be doing more. I'm going to go back to school, get a degree in public health, get a master's, whatever it is that you're doing. And what is like the reason behind that? Is it because of everything that you saw over the last year? Do you want to be Matthew Mcgarrity, Dr. Fauci number 2? Like what's
because
like?
I'm not nearly. I could never be somebody like that. That takes you. I should have started 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just, I would like to take my position on I've been in the corporate world, but in a technical scientific environment, but I'm very, I had to manage our response. And so that was, in the beginning, the money wasn't really an issue. It was just do what we can. But, after a while, we had to start making money to at least, because we weren't charging hospitals, any kind of like
for consulting
expediting
and such.
fees. We were doing free consulting. But eventually, a year and a half later, it's, you got to start making some money. So it was just, I think it was taking my mindset of seeing how companies were dealing with the pandemic in real time. The massive companies where, if they make a simple choice where if you have your employees wear a better mask as opposed to just a cheaper one, it might be 15 cents additional to buy that, per unit, but the preventative power of that, having a much better mask that meets certain industry standards, can really mitigate the spread, because it's a better source control device. Source control is just limiting the respiratory emissions of a person wearing a mask. So I think it was, and you might not have that if you're just purely been in a lab or a scientific environment. You don't quite have the perspective of other, people in the business world, the corporate world environment, where eventually, their survivability is part of it too. They can't just close. It's I think that we need a little bit more of a middle ground there. Where we're thinking about pandemic mitigation, but also the economic impact. And they tried. We're playing. This is us. Playing hindsight.
Oh, for sure. That's 95% of life, right? Not many people have the benefit of hindsight before they do something. So I guess for me, it's like I've known you for a long time. I think you were a business major, business admin?
Energy business.
Energy business.
John, when I was in college, oil was hot.
Yeah.
And then it was actually negative $1, I think, at one point this year or 2 years ago. So, yeah, I graduated and I think unemployment was 12%. And so I had a job somewhere. I got pulled, and I started landscaping again. And I got a job with this company. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm really interested in the journey from energy business manager to landscape architect to to future scientist Matthew Mcgarrity. You've been working in science for 11 years, and now you're going back to school. It seems like a big jump for someone who's in their 30s to be like, you know what, I'm not content with what I'm doing anymore. I want to go ahead and restart my story from a work perspective.
Yeah, well, I just think that I don't think a pandemic is the number one threat that we have facing us. And you look back on the list of threats, and I think it was actually this past year, and I forget organization that has this list or whatever, and
The Doomsday Organization.
yeah, not quite. Yeah, it's not the Doomsday Clock though. It's something. It's some other organization, but whatever. They didn't even include a pandemic in the top 5, and it's just like, what are we doing? You
That's
know?
very surprising.
And they actually had the conference in like late January, early February, and there were people there being like, you know, what are we doing here? You know, like the real people all think they're crackpots, you know, and they're like,
Asteroid.
yeah, this one, I forget this author. He wrote a book about I think it's just called Apocalypse or something, and he talks about the ends of the world and different disasters or what have you. And like he was emailing people like, can we not have people of the organization? Like, can we not have people from Wuhan come to the conference? And they were like, you're being ridiculous. And it's like, I think you're being, you know.
There's hindsight for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but 99 out of 100 times that guy's nothing happens.
He is
the
crackpot versus being dead on.
Yeah. What is this mask thing? You said they said masks don't work this week now?
I don't know. There was some report that came out.
I hate comments like that, John.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get real close. John,
do you know what I hate? What I hate.
Particle science doesn't change overnight, John.
Well, you know, the reporting of particle science does change overnight, Matt, and that is the frustrating thing to me, because what the news doesn't tell the news anymore. They are media companies masquerading as news organizations.
Yeah, I know.
And they no longer provide you unbiased facts. They give you opinion. So when someone goes on TV and says, "Fuck you for wearing a mask,"
yeah, they're op-eds.
"You're a sheep," these are not people dealing in facts. They're dealing in opinion. And somebody released something this week that said masks do nothing, and something to the extent of what you were saying, cheese grater, the whole 9 yards. I don't really read it because I try not to watch the news and listen to it because it is opinion based.
Yeah.
If I stand on my Twitter account and say, I got COVID and I was wearing a mask the entire time, it's like, what is that? This serving no purpose. It's serving no good. And unfortunately, this is like the world that we live in today.
Yeah, and there's also the you know, everyone thinks the exception to the rule is now the rule, where, oh, you know, so-and-so down the street got a vaccine and got sick a week later. Vaccines, you know, they're microchips. You know, they go right to the extreme.
A lot of people putting keys on their arms because they're now magnetized.
Yeah,
and
the reason why this belief in science is not there anymore is because we've grown up in a coddled environment where science has allowed us to be coddled, and we take it for granted.
100%.
You know, we don't realize that the concrete that's in that stairwell right there was developed by doing compression tests and drying tests and ensuring that it actually can withstand the weight of a house.
Mm-hmm.
That's science, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, they don't care about that. They don't realize that science is everything that they do.
It's because they watch certain news channels and they decree XYZ that is not rooted in fact, but people, because they see it on television, are of the mindset that this was on my TV. This was broadcast to me. This must be true.
You know how it was broadcast?
Yeah.
Satellites and science.
Yeah, satellites and science. I think my favorite thing was this week I saw this woman talking about how the vaccine is bullshit, and her sister's cousin's friend's uncle. You know, why is the government giving free vaccines for everybody? I don't understand. But right. Logical. You're talking in logic. That's not how a lot of these people deal. She's like, I don't understand why this is free. Why does the government want us to have these shots? There's something fishy going on. Why is cancer treatment not free? Why is AIDS medication not free? Why is asthma medication not free? And it's like, oh, honey, I'm sorry. You're describing socialized medicine. Yeah. Welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, I know.
But again, back to my question. You've made a pretty strategic shift in your life to go back to school to get another degree. Why?
Because there's more I think I can do, you know?
I like that.
There's more I think I can do. You know, and I love, you know, I studied meteorology for 2 years, and public health is kind of similar in a way where everybody thinks you're wrong all the time. Nobody really likes you. And you're just...
Sam Champion.
You just, I'm
ABC News.
I'm not choosing a field where everyone's like, oh my God, you know, wow. No, it's like public health is like, oh God, you're the person that's gonna make me, you know, close Buffalo Wild Wings for 3 weeks, you know, because there's an outbreak of something.
Right.
But you need public health. It's similar in the way where this is kind of a silly comparison, but the CIA, you don't know, you know when it's not working,
right,
and you don't know when it is working.
Correct.
And that's kind of how it It is, you know.
That's a very good analogy, actually. Obviously, you've been married. I think you guys are married 4 or 5 years now.
Let's see, 5 years. 5 years. 5 wonderful years.
Claire's the best, obviously. Hi, Claire. What are the conversations like in a marriage when you have a very successful job, you're doing really good, and you want to go from being this incredibly successful person to this, you know, person who's now paying to go to school? Like,
well, you know, Claire already is that because she's an incredibly brilliant person, you know, and she's in a position where they don't really value incredible brilliance. A lot of people, being a teacher, middle school teacher, teaches science, so she gets it, you know, and I get the fact that she's a teacher. I remember my teachers, and they had such an impact on me. And you know, and people come back and talk to Claire, students, and say, you know, I did this because of you. You're a teacher, you know, and so she wanted me to do it. She gets it.
Could you have done it like maybe without the support, or it's like?
No, of course not.
Sure.
And it was more about, she supported me more this whole year. You know, it was a crazy working hours. It was just, you know, being in a mask testing company during this. It was nuts. And so. And she would just like serve me food at the door, and I would just like nibble on like a avocado toast, and then go back to work and just grunt, you know. And I had a long beard, but it was just a wild time, you know. And I don't want that to happen again.
I like that. I mean, I think that's incredibly noble. Okay, you can decree the nobility of it or not.
We happen to be ready.
I'm allowed to say that is a noble endeavor, because not many people, when tasked with making a moderately huge impact on their own personal lives, will say, I think I can do something more, and then go do it. That's not common. People get very comforted in their everyday routines of making a certain amount of money, having a certain car, having a certain house, and not many people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to take a chance of doing something else in the middle of that. And I think that's incredibly awesome and noble, and in a lot of ways it mirrors things that I've kind of done in the last couple of years in terms of chasing passions and whatnot. And
John and I are both secret photographers. we compare pictures. Photos, excuse me.
Photos, yes, for sure. But I do find that to be a noble endeavor, because you are trying to make sure that something like that, just what you're inspired over the last year, won't happen again. And I can't say that that's a common thing. And I know you were going to disagree with me, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, you know, we all see our path, and sometimes, you know, it takes longer or other events to make you realize that path, and we'll see what happens, you know?
I think we have probably very similar upbringings. We grew up in the same area. We both have, you know, siblings. What did you want to be when you were like in high school, like when you grew up?
I had no idea. You know, I had no idea, because I knew that I had so many options. It wasn't like, I want to be an astronaut. You know, I was like, do I want to be an astronaut? I want to be this. I knew athletics was out of the question from a very early age.
Sure.
So I don't know. You know, I didn't grow up and be like, I want to be a technical director of a PPE testing house, you know, during a pandemic. That wasn't like that's what my little star.
How about college?
I didn't know either in college.
Yeah.
I didn't know either, you know?
I like that. I've had some conversations recently. I on my last podcast episode, I interviewed Taylor Ballantyne. She's a wonderful photographer and director. And she said that she went to her mother at age 13 and said, I want to be a photographer. And I was blown away by that, because in so many ways she's accomplished her goals a million times. And I can't relate to that at all. I never really had any inkling of what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be growing up. Not in high school, not in college. I just kind of did the thing that you're supposed to do. You go to college, you get a degree, you get a job. And then you need to make more money because you need a nicer car and a nicer watch. But I never really knew what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. And I find it refreshing that you're kind of the same way. And it's nice, because it is a very reassuring feeling when you meet someone who doesn't know at 13 what they want to be. And it's also nice also for when people are, you know, doing the thing that they've always been passionate about or wanted to do. But yeah. And
I'm 33, and I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I just think this is the next logical step, you know? And, you know, it's not, there's not really jobs where you can be like, that's what, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to be a money manager. Or I'm going to be a architect. I don't know what's going to come from this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what over the last year, I guess, gave you the confidence to be able to take this risk? I mean, was it the way you handled all of the craziness that was the last year? Was it the support system you have at home? Like, what?
I think it was both. I was able to leverage all the resources we had in an efficient manner, and we did got a lot of testing done and qualified a lot of different PPE. I think it was just, I like to deal in emergency situations because my head is always spinning. And I'm thinking right now about why is that post not lined up properly,
It's coming out.
And they did not use pressure treated wood, and it's outdoors, and that bothers me. But I know why that is because
it's cheaper.
No, I mean, but the supply chain impacts of having a pandemic is that people start buying furniture and start doing all home activities, and now there's a run on pressure treated wood. There's a run on cedar, which is weather resistant, and now there's a run, lumber's up 208%
or more,
and at this point more. So, but I'm all over the place, and so when things are going chaotic, I'm in my element, so to speak. I enjoy that because I'm in total chaos all the time.
I like that.
You ever watch Poltergeist where
I've seen them all. Yeah, they tormented my childhood.
You've seen them all. I mean, one. Although the guy was really creepy. That one guy, the old preacher in the second one or third one. But anyway, so this is 45 minutes in.
Things are starting to go crazy.
Shit's real. They bring in those ghost hunters, and they're the one guy's like, I actually saw a toy car move, a quarter of an inch in 3 hours on a slow-mo video. And then then I forget, Coach. He's just Coach to me. What's
Coach.
His name? What's his name? Love him.
Fuck. Oh my God. Coach. He's Coach.
Coach.
Yeah, Coach.
Coach is like, yeah, all right, cool. All right, come over here. And then he opens up the door to his daughter's bed, and there's just chaos. There's
chairs spinning.
Spinning. There's dolls going around. The record player's playing. That is my head all of the time. So, and it doesn't get worse than that. I don't get more chaotic. So I'm just kind of at home, I was born in the chaos. And so
I was born in the darkness.
So I enjoy at that level where people may not be at that level because of something going wrong. I'm there all the time.
Interesting.
And so
I think I'm similar in that way. I've got a lot going on in my mind. I didn't have the creative outlets 10 years ago that I have now. I didn't know to pick up a camera or a microphone and channel the chaos in my head into these other things. So it's been an immensely focusing last year because I've been able to kind of attach on to the things that I'm super passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's been nice. And, good advice from family and friends and just them giving me the reassurances to take these chances has also been really reassuring for me. But I know what that's like. Trust me.
Yeah. It's, and I think, some of my best shots that I got have been during the pandemic. Because I think it forced people to look more inner, and one of the things that I've realized is that I always listen to something, podcast, music, because I can't take the chaotic, the chaos that's going on and all the thoughts that I'm having is just, it's so much to, I need to listen to something so I focus on the thing my task that I'm doing. But you can't run away from that. You got to listen to your inner self and see what's going on, and and if you want to do, you want to take, be a photographer, then be a fucking photographer.
It's not that easy.
I know it's not that easy.
But that's
you just gotta fucking do it. That's the hardest part.
I agree.
It's just taking the leap.
And I that's why I give you immense amount of credit for what you're doing.
And I love this podcast.
Thank you. I love it too. But what you just said is super important because through the last 27 or so episodes that I've done, it's more invigorated me to do the things that I love because I'm talking to other people who are also doing the things that they love or chasing dreams that they have. And when you're growing up, you're not told to chase dreams, right? You're told you can be an astronaut or a doctor or a lawyer, but you're not told, hey, I can, mitigate a fucking global pandemic and then go be a public health official. It's not like you're geared towards doing things that you were actually passionate about. It's more so just get good grades, go to a good college, get a good job, and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's freeing when you like hop off the rat race and figure out like, I'm going to now go down this path, however far it takes me, however hard the road is, and like try to do something that truly is fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, you can learn. I think doing it after a certain amount of time is kind of good in a way, because you learn from that, quote unquote rat race, where it's how to be a team player, how to communicate.
Sure.
You mature, and you take these perspectives that wouldn't normally get, and then you can take that and you be a better person if you do make a career shift. Because again, going back to what I was saying about the perspective, is you're taking something where somebody who's been in the field the whole time, they have just done this, they've never, they don't have the perspective of somebody who has been on the other side of things. And I'll never have the experience that somebody who's been in public health the whole time, not starting at 32. But I hope to bring some kind of a different viewpoint for where I was, where, they might be, writing publications and papers about transmission or whatever, but seeing how faulty our supply chain was, and it all
that experience.
The end goal is transmission. So you can have a fantastic design mask or respirator, but if you don't have the supply chain or the industry thought is, I have to, I can only have 2 weeks worth of supply and then get through it, and then 2 weeks worth of supply, and it's very inflexible, and because of that quick turnover, I never have to have stock building up, and I can be very flexible and flexible, not, I mean inflexible. And so it's where the rubber meets the road, essentially, and working on standards groups, the standards are the ones, the groups of nerds who get together, who writes these standards that everything that you look around meets to ensure, levels of even levels of performance and safety. And I found a lot of times in academia that there wasn't a lot of people there. So I hope to be more of a person that represents academia in those, because they'll make some major, they'll release a standard on something like, it's concrete. It's, C6666 is the freeze and thaw of concrete. And there's a bunch of guys guys and girls and women, and industry experts getting together to write that standard. But they need research,
Get in the chopper.
Yeah, that's allowed. I wish I knew the standard on helicopter planes. Helicopters.
These are one of the things that you deal with when you do outdoor podcasts, but it's beautiful out. It's kind of hard to
you can cut that anyway. I lost my train of thought.
I'm not,
because I was thinking about
that was great.
I was thinking about the helicopter.
I've got a really perfect segue for this, because as soon as fucking someone lands at the airport, I'll get into it. But you dealt with, I guess, not like failure, but like unemployment rates, and in an industry that like kind of kicked you off to the side before you could ever really get involved in it. So my question for you is, how do you deal with failure or perceived failure and or regrets in your life?
Acknowledge them, learn from them, don't ignore them at all, because if you ignore them, you're just going to repeat them. Really acknowledge them and find out why it happened. Was it circumstances out of your control, within your control, and don't confuse the two. Don't say this was out of my control and really it wasn't really under your control. And realize it's going to happen.
Yeah, I like that. It took me a long time to be able to deal with personal failure, like not like personal life, but like work failures and like individual, like me, John failures. I think that's something that comes with age, right? You just certainly get to the point where you're a lot more comfortable in your own skin. So that I think took time. But that's an incredible perspective. I wish I had that 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
most people do. These are common conversations, with my younger self.
You just gotta, you can't dwell. If you dwell on regret and something you didn't, I wish I went in this industry or did this or did that, you're gonna ruin whatever you're in now by thinking about it in the past. So it's just a self-perpetuating cycle of failure.
I like that.
You have to give it your all. In whatever you're doing, and you can't do that if you're thinking about past failures.
It's very true.
When I resigned, to one of my he's the managing director. He was this Korean gentleman, and he's very, just a very, you can tell he has a lot of wisdom to him, and it's not just because he's Korean, it's just like he's just a cool,
pragmatic.
Yeah. But so when I had to resign, he was a bit in shock. But he said to me, we make decisions in life, and it could be as simple as I want a cheeseburger or do I want a BLT at lunch. And some decisions are as simple as that, but some carry where you don't know the outcome. He's like, you'll know the outcome immediately when you get whether you made the right decision. Because you're not going to know the outcome of the decision you're making for years later on. Because you will know the outcome if you don't give it your all, because you're not going to succeed.
Oh.
So you have to give it your all. And he told me, I was in his office, and he's telling me this.
How old is he? He's an extremely, very spot-on assertion.
Yeah, no, he's an older gentleman, close to retirement, I would think, and at some, our dad's age,
Yeah, 50s, 60s, sure. Yeah. What would you say is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It might have been that.
I mean, it's pretty fucking good.
And he was just, he's like, but if you don't, and he's like, I understand the decision you're making, and it's, go for it. And so that was a pretty good piece of advice. And what I would say, my piece of advice is don't force it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever
if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah, don't force it. If you don't have if you don't have when things aren't right, listen to yourself. Simple as that. Listen. You more than anybody else. You know when things aren't right, and either you deal with them or you don't. But if you don't, you're going to have to live with it,
and you will eventually have to deal with it.
Yeah, but you know what? It is what it is at that point. Should I have majored in something else, or should I have taken a job offer I had a few years ago? I don't know. But now it's just you can't think about it. There was
a very long period of my life where I tried to do goal setting of I want to be in XYZ in 5 years. I want to, be married, have a house, have a dog, have a car, have a blah, 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 be the vice president of this company, whatever. And it's like I was very, very focused on always projecting the next 5 years, the next 5 years, the next 5 years. And I don't do that anymore because I don't know where I'm going to be 5 days from now. I mean, I do. I'm going to be in California, but realistically speaking,
traveling. You're going to California now is like going to California in the 1870s. It's like, oh my God, he's going to California.
It is a weird time. It'll be my first flight in a year. But ultimately, what my point was trying to be is when you make this big, strategic shift in your life, like from, employment to non-employment to school, do you have in the back of your head, where am I going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now?
I think it was one of the reasons I think I also left work is that I was so in it at work. I was so sucked into what I was doing that I didn't really give it those thoughts, except a little part of me is like, let's look into this. Let's apply here and here and give it a shot. Where I wasn't even like where I want to be. So no, I don't know where I want to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 30 days. At this point, it's it's been such a long year and a half. I'm going to take a couple weeks and just plant some tomatoes. But I wake up this morning, and that part of me is already kicking in where I'm making a list and I'm making a strategic plan, because that's what I do for a living.
Sure.
Is planning. And so, but I want some time to just kind of, mellow
reset
a bit,
Well, you certainly had a stress. I mean, like,
I was burnt out before the pandemic started because I never took vacation. I love traveling, and I would do all that. And I was kind of tired before the pandemic started, and then I found another gear. But now I was just kind of out of it. So no, I don't know.
I read something interesting, and I'm going to quote the wrong statistic, as I do on every single statistic I pull out of my ass. But it was something to the extent of like Americans use like 32% of their vacation time, like on a yearly basis, like 80%, 70 something percent.
Crazy like
it's
that.
Something crazy.
Or $3 billion of unused vacation.
Yeah, it's something crazy like that, and like you always get to like have this opportunity for you to reset and or rewind or relax, and no one ever does it.
But John, it's you don't, because when I would take vacation, I took last time I took a week's vacation was 3 years ago. We went to Ireland, or 4 years ago at this point, because time's a flat circle since COVID. The whole time I was like, oh God, like what's going? Because
where's my work email?
What is going on? I was never more relaxed than being off and having just answered the last email inbox, because it's like there's no fires. I am off. I can now enjoy being off, but I will check in 6 more hours, And so it was just what we think of a reset, we don't really know, we don't know what that even is, but I say this, but,
You're in the midst of one.
No, I know, but the one thing that gave me perspective was where was my grandfather at this point in his life right now, and it was island hopping in the Pacific with 2 children at home, same age. He was in the old man draft in New Guinea and the Philippines.
Wow.
He's 32, or 33 at this point. Old, really old for fighting in combat. So how can I possibly be like, I need a reset?
Yeah.
But you do.
Sure.
But back then it was just like, no, just keep going.
Yeah. I don't look at like age anymore the same as I did even like 5 years ago. Like, when you're 18, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm 18, I'm a free man. And 21, yeah, I could drink, I could do whatever I want. And you're like 25, like, well, I'm fucking 25. And like 30, oh, it sucks, it's all downhill. And in a lot of ways,
great, man. 30s are
the best.
Because you are
more myself today than I was at any other point in my life.
You kind of know what you want. You're mature. Maturity is such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I went back to school now, I would kill it when I went to undergrad. But because I wasn't mature. And I know, like looking back, I see some of my friends, I'm like, man, Teddy was really mature, and God bless him, because it was during the Great Recession, the Dow dropped like 1,000 points in a day, and back then, kids, that was a lot. And I was like, whoa, man, like that's, where do we want to go to the bar? Like let's day drink. The economy's crashing, And then Teddy was like, no, this is a very big deal. I don't think you realize how big of a deal this is. And, he was 20 years old saying that, or 21 years old, where it took me 10 years to be like, this pandemic is going to be a big deal. We should really look into this, so it takes time for people mature at different rates,
I'm a big believer in that. It's hard not to be. I mean, just the solo strides that I've made myself in the last 12 months, I'm a completely different person than I was a year from now.
Yeah, well,
and a year from now, I will be a even better, more complete version of myself than I am today. That's such a great feeling. I wish I could go back to 25-year-old John and say, bro, stop chasing.
I know 25-year-old John.
Yeah, he was a fucking shithead.
well, he was dealing with 21-year-old
right.
me.
Yeah. Good times, though, for sure.
We got to get the willies out. So
growing pains are an extremely common occurrence in life, and it's very cliche to say, like, I've grown so much over time. But not everyone grows. Some people very much be the same person their entire life. And I am incredibly blessed that I feel as if I am a better version of myself.
Yeah. You know what I think we've lost in this society is the ability to grow.
And or the ability to make mistakes and be able to own your mistakes.
Yeah, and change your mind. You're not allowed to change your mind anymore in this culture, where it's and I think that's where the disconnect in science is too, is that, I was presented a new data set, and now I changed my opinion or my hypothesis. You do that now, you're politically dead.
It's absurd.
It's the John Kerry thing where, you're a flip-flopper, and where it's, why
am I not allowed to change my opinion or change my mind on something that I am now more knowledgeable about?
It just drives me crazy.
It is the most exhausting thing about living in 2021. It is, you can't make mistakes out loud. You can make mistakes as long as you don't tell anybody about it. You can't think something and then be like, oh fuck, I don't feel that way anymore. I don't appreciate that
because
anymore.
you're weak, John. If you do that, especially, I mean, it's
the hyper,
it's reinforce, the hyper
politicization of everything.
It's reinforcing a belief that may not be correct, and so, and if I'm somebody who is like, even if I want to change my mind, I can't. So if I can't change my mind, what am I going to do? I'm going to go talk to the people who won't change their mind and just talk to them, and they'll talk to me, and I'm just going to reinforce this bad opinion that I had, or this bad position I had on this particular topic, and now I'm just reinforcing that.
Sure. It's the echo chamber that we live in.
Exactly, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, if you admit you're wrong, you're politically weak. And now you're socially weak. I've had countless discussions with people where they have their opinions, and I'm and I'm guilty of it too, where they might be giving me a position where I'm not too familiar with, and I might say, well, I still have my opinion, or and I try to do that. I try to admit that I'm wrong once a day, because it levels you out, it grounds you, and you realize that it opens you up to other opinions and viewpoints where, and it's.
People forgot that opinions are like assholes, and everybody has one.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make yours any prettier or better than mine. It's still just an asshole.
It's still just... And a lot of them are.
It's true, though.
So, John, what do you look at to turn the tables? How do you know when a picture is good?
It's a really good question. Photo, picture, whatever. I don't know. I can't answer that question. I've been asked a lot about, I do a lot of documentary-style street photography. I don't know the moments that make me pick up my camera and press the button versus the ones that don't. I see life differently now since I picked up a camera. I see frame lines. I see scenes differently. When I'm walking down the street, I notice people more. I notice how it's like a dance. Like I've started seeing the world as if people are a part of my life, even if they're strangers. And I look for people doing things that are extremely mundane and normal, and just capturing that and wanting to share that. I mean, I've some of my absolute favorite photos that I've made are my least liked. They're like the least shared, the least...
Oh, I'm the same way, where I'll be like, I love this picture. And I'm like, it's really... But I'm like, because we are internalizing the moment as well. Yeah.
I don't know. I struggle with that question a lot. I don't have a real answer. I see things, and in that moment I stop and I take a picture. And I shoot primarily film, and more so now digital, but I do primarily shoot film, and it slows me down. It slows my process down. It slows the world around me. And I just look to capture people living life. And yeah.
That's why I do it, because it slows me down. It brings me to a place where I can just look at what's going on in this one particular spot. And it's nothing else matters in that one moment. I have to get that one shot.
I couldn't agree with you more. It has changed my life for the better in so many ways. I've sold maybe like 100 prints, or a couple, like 100 and something photos.
Jeez, I gotta get on that.
Yeah, it's nothing to write home about. It's not a lot, but like every time someone reaches out to me and sends me a text or buys a print or whatever, it just further reinforces this is the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And similarly, that's why I started the podcast, because the feeling that I get when I look at an image that I took, that I produced, that feeling is what I get when I make these podcasts. Yeah. It is similarly gives me that life high that I've been chasing my whole life. And as you get older, it's the things that you do outside of your 9 to 5 that really give your life purpose, in my opinion. It could be kids, it could be whatever. But for me, it's taking photographs and doing this podcast. And there's no better feeling that I have in my life, except for maybe having a really great bourbon.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're making an emotional connection with something that's not a phone or a TV or
sure.
It's and I think we've missed that. We've lost that a bit, where it's it's a podcast. You're speaking to somebody. It's not just if you're scrolling through something and they have this opinion. It's actually speaking to somebody. In that moment, you're capturing them in an unguarded moment.
Yeah.
Where it's not planned. It's not a publicist is, I got to have this tweet out, apology tweet. It's real. It's actually communicating with somebody.
Plus, the addition to that is that I've known you 15 years, but I've got to know you better in the last 45 minutes than I have over the last 15 years.
Yeah,
and it's a very great thing.
When we both realized that we like to do photography, we were both like,
I was like, that's weird.
And then you pull out this old camera, and I'm like, and I was, that was loud. So John pulls up this old camera, and I'm like, well, what can I do now? And I'm just like showing my iPhone. I'm like, he has a camera, a physical camera.
Doesn't matter. I've gotten to the point where the tool that makes the image doesn't matter to me anymore. If I have like M6, if I have Canon EOS R, if I have my iPhone, it doesn't matter. I take hundreds of pictures on my iPhone. I don't give a shit. The tool that makes the image is irrelevant to me.
That transition in technology really only occurs when it didn't exist, and there's people there who remember when that didn't exist, and they're saying ours was better because you didn't have this tool.
Sure,
it's like with painting, or as techniques got better, I'm sure there are artists who were like, our painting was better.
My thought process when it comes to anything creative, whether it's photography or art, like you said, it's the intentionality behind it. Why are you doing this thing? Why are you taking this picture? Whether you're painting on canvas or you're using your iPad to make something, there's intention behind it, and what that intention to me is more interesting than what you used to bring out this piece of work. Because
obviously you're taking that picture because you're reflecting on something that's inside you, and you're saying this is firing a neuron that I don't know why, but I have to capture this. And so that's why it's interesting to me, because I learn more about myself than what's going on in the photo.
100%. 100%. And each reason behind each click of the trigger, of the shutter button, says something about the day, about how I'm feeling. I've gone days shooting where I come back and it's all like isolated individuals. What does that say about how I was feeling that day? I have days where I'm focusing primarily on couples holding hands, or father-daughter scenes, whatever it might be. It is a window into how I was perceiving the world that day, and there's no other way I at least can relate my life to than by taking pictures.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
What's your biggest fear?
Ghosts.
Like actual real ghosts?
No, I would say ghosts, but I think, if you just dig down on the layers, probably the fear of the unknown. So I don't like swimming in the ocean because I can't see my feet. I don't like swimming in lakes because I can't see my feet. I don't like going to those haunted houses where they jump out and scare you.
Yeah, fuck that.
Why the fuck would you do that?
You get the adrenaline, but there's no actual tangible reason or benefit for me.
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown, because I think as someone who's always constantly thinking and planning and never stopping, that what is my fear when I'm planning something is I don't know something. So my fear, looking back on it, I was afraid of the dark growing up and ghosts and everything. It's because it's the unknown.
I like that.
And then what's even scarier is finding out maybe, what the unknown actually is. So it's, is the unknown is worse than I thought? Or was I overreacting to it? And then I'll start self-diagnosing, you overreacted, this and everything else. So I think it's just the fear of the unknown. And how to grapple with that. And maybe that's why I'm making the move, where we don't know what's coming next. And so, what's better than somebody who's been, constantly trying to deal with the unknown than
leaps right into it
to go deal with the problem with the unknown, And so
I like that.
So maybe it's a bit of me conquering my fear, where I know that I'm going. I had a very concrete track, very solid track, and that was going to be my life. And maybe it was I finally discovered what the unknown was, and it was going to be that life. And I was like, that's great, but
I could do more.
I can flip the switch a little bit more.
I like that. I think that's like a really great self-actualization that, I don't think is necessarily common. I like to wrap up every podcast with asking a series of questions. It's sort of a little bit rapid fire, and then there's a couple big ones. So the first question is, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book. It's really overplayed, but Catcher in the Rye. I like Catcher in the Rye because I also discovered Miles Davis at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
And I was in high school, just fat, trying to grow a beard and not working, and just listening to reading Catcher in the Rye and listening to Miles Davis, kind of
holds a
blew.
place in your heart. It's not okay to like Catcher in the Rye anymore. That like 2021 can't like it anymore, even though it's literally masterwork. You're not,
Yeah,
canceled.
There's a fine line between that,
Don't get me wrong, it's like my number 3 favorite book. Yeah. So I'm fully being facetious. It's just one of those things that now in 2021, not allowed to like.
It'll be fine again in 2025.
Yeah, it's extremely true. What's your favorite movie?
The Shining.
Interesting choice. Have you read a lot of?
Yeah, and I was at one point I was in a very dark place, emotionally and spiritually. I don't remember much of February, March, April, May, and June. It was kind of just a blur. And I remember being in a very dark place, and where, looking back on the pictures I was taking, and I was realizing, okay, this was this date, and this was this date. I had a whole series of GIFs or GIFs or whatever it is of just The Shining. Jack Nicholson dealing with, Jack Torrance dealing with what's going on, and I could explain it through 20 GIFs or GIFs, whatever it is, exactly what's going on in my life at that time. Like I was just like, I just texted some like my buddy, like this is everything right now, and it was just the isolation and dealing with it, and seeing how some people react, and knowing that that's how I don't want to react. But that movie it's a cinematography, it's a masterpiece.
Absolutely, for sure. What's your favorite food?
I would say green curry.
Really?
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting.
What did you think I was going to say?
I don't know. Chicken parm.
Chicken parm, come on. I mean, yeah, chicken parm is delicious, but we grew up on that. You haven't like flown the coop yet and be like, wow, flavors. Like my mom cooked. God bless her. My mom, like my brother the other week, we're like, what was we had the conversation. We're like, well, meatloaf, chicken parm, chili, beef stew. And it's just like, no, that chicken. Then she made the chicken with the salad. No, and so she played her hits, Yeah. And so like chicken parm is amazing. I love my mom's chicken parm, but green curry with some good roti. I know there's one Thai place that's the family's geographically from an area where they have roti, traditional. It's like a fusion restaurant, and I love green curry with roti. Love it.
Interesting. Okay,
I'm gonna get that time.
I'll give you that. This is a little bit heavy. Do you believe in an afterlife?
I don't know. It's unknown, so I don't think about it. No, I don't know. I don't. It's. I think. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think that's okay. I think it's. Like for me, it's hard for me not to imagine something beyond this, because it just like, what the fuck is, like, we're not just like some primordial soup that jumped out of the ocean, fucking couple apes start standing up and like, boom, we're here. Like that to me seems just highly improbable. So like I find it difficult to imagine that all of this is for nothing else. But it's certainly understandable to not know. Yeah.
Well, we as humans want to believe in something bigger,
than ourselves.
But you can apply that to like the JFK assassination, where it's it had to be a mass conspiracy, because how could we can't really fathom one guy changing the course of the world. And that's you can actually draw the conclusion, that same logic to was the COVID a lab leak theory or this. We can't. We rather not believe that just because a bat defecated possibly near a pangolin, or whatever species that served as the jump off point, the spillover point. How can we can't fathom that could happen. That something as simple out of our control that can happen, and then 600,000 Americans are dead. We rather believe in some mass conspiracy where humans are the top dog still. We can't really be stopped by anything else. We want to believe in that. But a lot of times it's not true. But what you bring up an interesting point is, but that's the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So what's before that?
Big Bang.
And there's a astronomy, or how they can prove that the universe is expanding. As you can stand on top of a wall and shoot an arrow, and that arrow I forgot. Never mind. I forget the
analogy.
I have it in my head, and it's difficult to articulate it.
What is one thing that you've done that you're most proud of?
I don't know.
That's something I'd like you to work on for next time.
I don't know. What's something you're most proud of, John?
I just think like the immense amount of growth that I've experienced, I would say like over the last 5 years. Like my 30th birthday was both great and also like daunting. And it's easy to like, I have the same conversation all the time. Like, I'm 35 years old. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. But wait. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life, but I'm now okay with that.
Yeah,
and that is something I'm extremely proud of, because you don't need to have the answers at 18, at 30, at 60, at 80. You don't have to have the answer. That's, I think, the point of life.
Yeah, and I think this also is, I gotta by 30, by 25, by 30, by 35. It gets passed down for where, Alexander, the Great conquered the Eastern world, and she was 32, and those people were dead on average by 40 or 50. Right. So they were in their their 50s at that point, if you want to do the ratio, the equivalent. So we're going to be living till we're 100 probably. So just kind of.
I probably won't, but most people can. Yeah, I won't be one of those. I treat my body like a fucking recreational.
Maybe you should work on that.
I work out every day.
You should work on your private health.
Yeah, I do. Okay, last question. Give me a recommendation, something that you've consumed lately. Could be a TV show, a movie, a podcast, a book you've read, just something that you've consumed recently that you'd like to recommend for the listeners out there today.
This is not going to be quick, John. I hope you're not going anywhere.
I've got nowhere to go.
So I would say Cheers. Because during the pandemic, when you were locked in your house, I ended up watching Cheers for whatever reason. I would at 4:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, I would go downstairs because I couldn't sleep and watch Cheers, because I wanted that, like, hey, welcome to Cheers. Like everyone knows each other.
Making your way in the world today.
Yeah, it's that social experience.
Takes everything you got.
And it was a great show, but there was one episode where this one guy actually worked at a lab. I'm not kidding. And he's like, he's talking about something like a virus might have leaked. And then Ted Danson's like, that's, probably didn't leak it. You're probably fine, And then the guy's like, yeah, you're probably right. And then he walks out and everybody freaks out and starts Lysoling everything. And I was like, not Cheers, man. Not Cheers.
Not you too.
But besides Cheers, Great British Bake Off. And then also Victorian Farm. I love history, so reading about or watching a show about how they take 4 people and they put them in the Victorian era, and they have to live in that era for a year. They go to their homes at 9:00 at night, but they're stuck in that era and you just realize how things were different, and you get a better perspective.
I like that. My recommendation is Dave on FX. I don't know if you saw it with Lil Dicky.
Oh, I mean,
so season 2 kicks off.
Dave is a great show.
It's fucking hysterical. So season 2
movie.
Season 2 kicks off tonight, and Lil Dicky is just wildly hilarious. And if you haven't seen season 1, go watch it. Season 2 kicks off tonight. It is hysterical. it is laugh out loud funny.
I was thinking of the
The President movie,
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah,
I was thinking of the Aaron Sorkin vehicle.
So I just kept going.
Martin Sheen was the Martin Sheen because he was in Dave. He was the president of the West Wing.
Best show of all time. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I greatly appreciate your time. You're a true gentleman, a wonderful human being.
Can I be a regular guest? Like maybe like every third Thursday.
I got
nothing going on
I'm going
right
to try
now.
to redo all these conversations in 6 months.
Oh.
So like kind of like stage 2 of like where were you today and where are you going to be 6 months from now. So absolutely, you will be on the podcast again, and I'm expecting great things from you, buddy. And I love you and thank you.
Thanks, pal. Let's get some pizza. I'm hungry.
Okay, sounds good.